Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40K and welcome to the June 2021 edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and help support the channel by becoming a patron. Now, let's jump into the questions. Griffin of Might asks, is it possible for a demon prince to become mortal again and regain their soul? Normally the answer to this would be no, but apparently Godblight has something saying something to the contrary, so if you take that book out of the equation, and I just want to point out I've not read the book yet so I can't confirm either way, take that book out of the equation, the answer is no. How do the Custodians view the Psykers who have undergone soul binding to the Emperor? I think they view them the same as anyone else in the Imperium, because I think it's only the members of the Ecclesiarchy who treat those Psykers any differently, to be honest. Did you ever find the bike for Rogue or Dawn? You need to ask Alpha Buse at that. I've not seen the script. Voice of the Emperor asks, does Krieg have or use sanctioned Psykers? Okay, to my knowledge, for most Imperial Guard regiments, the use of Psykers is done in a way similar to that of Commissars, like they'll get a Psyker or a group of Psykers attached to a specific regiment, even though they may not necessarily come from said regiment's world. Now you do have some Imperial Guard regiments that have Psykers brought with them when the regiment is uplifted. The Arkan Confederates are a good example of this. But as far as Krieg is concerned, I think that any Psykers in a Krieg regiment would be attached to the regiment in a manner similar to a Commissar. Dan asks, could or would the Jakero be capable of repairing the Golden Throne? If anyone could, the Jakero could potentially do so because they are known to be techno-savants, but at the same time, would the Imperium let an alien anywhere near the Emperor? Probably not. Vral asks, when do you think that GW will move the lore forward and reveal the next Primarch that will return? I honestly hope they don't bring back any more Primarchs. You know, I've already made a video on this for you Patreon supporters, so you already know my thoughts on this. Like, if they have to bring back another Loyalist Primarch, bring back Lionel Johnson because he's the only one we know for certain who is still alive. When a Tyranid invasion passes through a system, it absorbs all biomass, usually leaving the system dead. Has the Imperium ever returned to any of these systems in an attempt to reclaim or resettle them? Funnily enough, yes. The Belisarius Cornwall, for example, actually does detail of Belisarius Paul's plans to resettle the world of Sotha, basically like, to reverse the damage done to it by the Hive Fleets, if I'm recalling correctly. So, at the very least, if they've not actually done so, there are plans in place. Now that the Adeptus Custodians have taken to the stars once more in larger numbers, do you think we will see a Custodian character show up in Necromunda lore? If we do, it will be one of the Eyes of the Emperor. It won't be a full-on Custodian in golden armour, it will be a former Custodian as it were. Austin Horner asks, in the novel The Regent's Shadow, Rabute Gilliman awards Tanao Alea with a sword known as the Somnus Blade, and I'm stopping there because I'm actually going to be doing a video on the Somnus Blade shortly after my break, so I'm going to leave it at that, sorry. Warrior of Virtue asks, in the modern Imperium, the hatred of Xenos is motivated by religion, but was it ever explained why the Emperor took such a firm anti-Xenos stance? I'm not sure if it was actually properly explained beyond the fact that reclaim the galaxy for humanity and just get rid of any potential threats to humanity. I mean, obviously with some races like Orcs, Crud, etc., you're going to need to get rid of them regardless, even if you are just treating them as, pest infestations. In regards to Drukhari, again, Raiders, get rid of them, put them down. But that being said, the Imperium has been known, if they discover a Xenos race that is, at a certain level of technology but considered non-dangerous, they will, form blockades around their world to basically stop them from leaving their world, saying, we'll let you live, but you're staying on your planet, kind of thing. But I don't think beyond that it's ever explained why, beyond, must reclaim the galaxy for humanity. Sorry. Zero Hits asks, why isn't Jeanseed harvested from Space Marines as soon as they are fully grown and the organs are all matured, instead of leaving it to the possibility to be lost in the theatre of war? I honestly don't know why they don't harvest it, as soon as the progenitor glands are matured, to be honest. I think part of it might be, it's just basically akin to a dog tag in a way. You collect it as part... in a way it's the harvesting of progenitor glands has become, for lack of a better term, it's been ritualized by Space Marine chapters. So, this person has died, we collect their progenoids, and they become reborn, when it's implanted into a new aspirant kind of thing. I don't think there's any benefits to keeping the progenoid glands beyond their maturation date, but aside from that, I don't really know why it's not harvested beforehand, and it might be in some chapters cases, but we don't know, I don't think. Ghost Reaper asks, how many mortal humans does it take to bring down a Space Marine in melee or ranged combat? Depends upon the weapons they have, and depends upon the plot. Do void ships have a machine spirit that is as conscious as the ones present in Titans? Yes. A good example of this, if you read Night Lord's trilogy, the machine spirit for the Covenant of Blood is extremely potent and fully conscious and actually has conversations with the ship's navigator. What changes did a Mechanicum go through when it became the Adeptus Mechanicus after the Horus Heresy? A lot. To be honest, far too many to list right here. Brandon A asks, have there been any cases of greater Imperial demons, since demon princes and living saints are just different sides of the same coin? A Legion of the Damned Dreadnought? I don't think so, no, to be honest. That second question is actually a statement, it's not a question, so I'm going to ignore that. How are Eldari chain weapons when compared to the Imperium of Mans? I would presume lighter and more efficient, but just as deadly. Pentadeus asks, what would be the predicted response to a Black Library novel where instead of focusing on a major event, it focuses on one or multiple Imperial civilians, showing what life is like in the Imperium of Man? There have been a number of short stories detailing this, but as far as full-blown novels, I think your best bet in this regard would be things like in the Warhammer Crime series, to be honest. Maybe Warhammer Horror. Do you think the Imperium would be better off without the Mechanicus Code and its disdain for technological advancement? Ooh, that's a tough question. If the Imperium was allowed to innovate more, then that's obviously a good thing, but at the same time, the Mechanicus also are the only ones who know how to build certain pieces of technology, so the Imperium will be effectively stuck without certain pieces of tech if they didn't have the Mechanicus Cult. And let's be honest, I don't think the Imperium or the Mechanicus will be able to withstand, a full-scale war between the two factions. Brent Feast asks, what is your favourite obscure fact about the 40k universe that most fans probably don't know? That's a tough question to answer because when you think of a fact that you know and others might not know, you don't really know if others don't know the fact, because if you know the fact, then someone else is bound to know the fact as well. So I'm just going to go out there and say that there was a point in time when the Imperium of Man thought the Sahaduin, the Shark people, were a greater threat to the Imperium than the Khitan. Bedwed Behead Xenos Name Character Edition, you're meant to give me characters to choose from, not just leave it up to my head, so I'm going to ignore that. We know that at least in fantasy, Tzeentch was the most powerful Chaos God before Khorne overtook him. Who do you think will be next after Khorne? Well, after Khorne will probably be Tzeentch again, because Nurgle's power is known to be constantly fluctuating, like it's described like a plague, like it waxes and wanes. So there will be times when Nurgle's power eclipses all of the other Chaos Gods combined, and times where he's weaker than any of them. And Slaanesh, while Slaanesh is commonly regarded as the weakest Chaos God, it is important to note that they gain power through the act of excess. So if anyone does something, to honour the other Chaos Gods but does it in excess, they're also powering Slaanesh as well as their patron god. That guy asks, what would an Apothecary do if they found a dead Space Marine from another chapter? Would they extract the Jeanseed and send to the chapter it belongs to, or leave it for that chapter's Apothecaries to retrieve it? Depends on the situation. Like, if it's on a battlefield where multiple Space Marine chapters are fighting alongside one another, and there's multiple Apothecaries collecting Jeanseed of the dead, then those chapters' Apothecaries will basically probably just say, hey, one of your guys is here, kind of thing. But if it's just like a chapter's conducting a campaign and they randomly find a dead Space Marine from another chapter, then the Apothecary will extract that Jeanseed if it hasn't already been done so, and then they'll basically contact the chapter it belongs to, say, hey, we have one of your guys here, do you want to come collect him? Sometimes that will actually lead to bonds of friendship being formed between the two chapters, saying you collected our brother's remains, so we'll come to your hour of need, blah blah blah. Or just the exchange of okay, you gave us a progenoid gland, so we'll give you a master-crafted weapon as a thank you. And finally, Lucanron asks, why did Kurz let M'Shen kill him? It's basically because Kurz was being a petulant child and saying, if you kill me, you're proving that everything I did was right. The answer's there in Curse's last words, death is nothing compared to vindication, the action you are about to commit proves the truth of what I've ever said or done. He's basically, throwing a tantrum and saying, you kill me and you've proven that everything I've done was right. How do you feel about the intricate theories about the Emperor having foreseen the Horus Heresy? It's all over the place, to be honest. There's stories saying that the Emperor foreseen the heresy, then he didn't foresee the heresy, then he thought the heresy would happen, then he didn't think the heresy would happen, and all of those at once. It's a complete mess, and we just need something clarifying, saying, okay, what did the Emperor actually think? What do we actually know? Because there's too many conflicting sources. With how in 40k things of the past were originally intended to be obfuscated mythical stories like the two missing Primarchs still are, how do you feel about the Horus Heresy and Siege of Terra book series now that we're starting to reach the finish line? Overall, the series has been pretty good. Don't get me wrong, there have been some duds in the books. Like, some books have been pretty shit, I'm looking at you, Battle for the Abyss, Damnation of Pythos, Descent of Angels, I'm looking at you, you're fucking terrible. Some books were meh. Some books were good, some books were great, but overall I think if you had to rate the entire series out of 10, so far I definitely give the series at the very least a 7 overall, because the bad stuff is really bad, but the good stuff is really good, if that makes sense. And that concludes this edition of the Patreon Q&A sessions. As always, if you would like your questions answered, then click the link in the video description below and help support the channel by becoming a patron. Until next time, this has been Remlays from 40k Theories, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye!